Hi guys, and welcome to Cultnomics. My name is Paul Hanley, and today I'm going to be chatting to you about the determinants of supply. So in this video here, we're going to examine the determinants of supply. And these are all the factors over and above price that will affect the supply of any product that's out there in the economy. So these are factors that will shift the supply curve either to the left or to the right. So in order to explain these ones first, we're just going to look at the basic language underpinning supply determinants. And the first thing to concentrate on is that if there is a change in the price of a product that affects the supply of it, we call this a movement along the supply curve. So this doesn't shift the supply curve, we just simply move along the supply curve due to a price change. And what we call this is a change in quantity supplied. So this is driven by price changes in the market that affect supply. That is in contrast to a shift in the entire supply curve itself, which can shift to the left or to the right. So we denote this as a change in supply. So supply means the entire supply curve itself at every price. And what we call the determinants of this is other factors that affect supply. And these are the factors we're going to concentrate on in this video here. In order to do that, we will look at an example. And the example is taken from our demand video where we were looking at donuts from the customer perspective. However, because we're looking at supply here, we're transferring over this idea and we're seeing where does the supply of donuts come from and what can affect the supply of donuts. So in this case, we're going back to the factory itself, the supplier, the producer in this case, and we will look at all the different factors that could affect the supply of donuts onto the market from individual suppliers. The first determinant that we will look at in this case is the cost of production. So this can take a number of different features. The first one up here in terms of cost of production is the cost of an input. And for a donut, one of the major costs is the cost of the eggs in terms of the ingredients. And if the price of eggs go up on the market, this will affect supply. It will cause it to shift left, a negative supply shock, so a leftward shift of supply. The second cost of production would be in terms of technology, and if you can automate the production process more, you can increase the supply of that product. So with more automation in the supply of donuts, the supply curve will shift to the right. And finally, another cost of production would be the government, and these could be in the form of regulations and taxes. So for example, if the government increases the tax rate on donuts, what will happen is a reduction in the supply of donuts onto the market. Number two then, as a determinant, is the profitability of substitutes in supply. So what would be a substitute in supply of a donut? Well, one example for this could be a muffin. So you use basically the same ingredients to produce the muffin, and what we see is if the price of muffins go up on the market, the supply of donuts will decrease because they are substitutes in supply. The third one here is the profitability of goods in joint supply. So when you're producing these donuts, some of the leftover dough can be used for producing another product. So for example, a good in joint supply would be a bun, which means that when there is more produced of donuts, there is also more produced of buns on the market. Number four then is the expectations of the producer. And this would mean that if the producer, the supplier in this case, thinks that the price of donuts are going to rise in the future, maybe due to a shortage on the market, what they will tend to do is they will decrease supply now so that they can increase supply later when the price goes up. So that will result in a decrease or a leftward shift in supply straight away. Number five then is the random shocks that a supplier can affect supply, and one of these might be a strike. So if you have a union that decides to strike on a given day or week, that will decrease production and therefore the supply curve will shift left. Another random shock that a firm could be hit by would be a fire, in which case any type of fire like that would lead to disruption and the supply curve decreasing. Number 6 then is the number of suppliers in the market, simply just the number of producers that are supplying donuts. And in this case here, if we just have one factory in the market, well, you would have limited supply. However, as new suppliers come into this market here over time, what you will see is the supply curve will shift to the right. So an increase in the number of suppliers increases supply on the market. And what this all means is we can bring it together and we can denote a supply function. So a supply function just is a brief way of summarizing this information. So supply in this case is a function of, or depends on, we've already seen in previous videos that it is a function of price. So when the price goes up, the quantity supplied on the market increases, and that's called a movement along the supply curve. However, all the other determinants that we've looked at now, and these would include the cost of production, the profitability of related goods, the expectations of the supplier, random shocks, and the number of suppliers in the market, all of these extra determinants cause the entire supply curve to shift. So in terms of the terminology to use, this will be a shift in supply, and this could be to the right if it's an increase, and to the left if it's a decrease in supply in that case. And this is a supply function. I hope you call back to Cultnomics soon. Bye for now.